and welcome to the 2019 Toyota AFL Premiership Season Fixture Announcement, live and exclusive on afl.com.au and the AFL Live app. My name is Nat Edwards, and here with me for the big reveal is AFL General Manager of Clubs and Broadcasting, Travis Auld. Trav, welcome.
Thank you, Nat. Great to be here.
How are you feeling?
Ready to go. We've put a lot of time into this, and I'm looking forward to releasing the details.
Now, we do know there was a little bit of a delay by a day. Can you talk us through why?
Oh, the fixture, as you know, is quite a big process, and there's a lot of stakeholders who all want their say, and that's fair enough. And so we just felt like the extra day would give us a chance to make sure we'd locked everything down, everyone understood their fixture, were comfortable with where it was at, and so we're ready to go. When
does the process of actually putting the fixture together begin?
Largely, the dedicated work starts the day after the grand final. It's a month of sort of fairly solid work by a couple of people in here, particularly Marcus King and Andrew Verstoop, who do a lot of work preparing it, and then we start to consult sort of more widely through the industry. All
right, time now to get straight into it, and we'll start dissecting the 2019 fixture. And here are the key items. Blockbuster Thursday and Friday nights, pies in the prime time. We'll delve into that shortly, but they are the big winners when it comes to Thursday and Friday night football. The Blues and Saints dumped from Friday night, more 5-day breaks, a Good Friday double-header, and a footy feast, at least one game of footy on 10 of 11 straight days across the Easter and Anzac period. It's going to be a footy bonanza, Trav.
It is, yeah. We're looking forward to that couple of weeks.
I will start talking about the prime time, because that's always a talking point with all of our fans. And next year there will be more Thursday night games, 8 to be exact, one more than in 2018. There were some reports out there could have been up to 12 or 13. Did you consider scheduling more, Trav?
Oh, we certainly looked at the right number. So we don't have a set number in mind when we start out, but you need to consider making our game as accessible as you can for supporters, and that's largely getting the right games in the right time slots at the right venues, but also taking into consideration things like school holidays so that families and regional supporters can get to the games. And that's always been really important for us, and hence why we ended up with 8 Thursday night games.
How does the demand for Thursday night games compare to Friday night with the clubs?
Oh, that's a big time slot, and so a Thursday night in most cases rates fairly similar to a Friday night, and so clubs like their Thursday nights. It's historically been more popular with the non-Victorian clubs. Adelaide Oval's fantastic on a Thursday night. SCG's been very good on a Thursday night. We've had the one or two in Melbourne over the last couple of years. All
right, let's turn our attention now to the coveted Friday night slot. And Collingwood are the kings with 7 Friday nights. They also have 2 Thursday nights, plus Anzac Day. Is this, I guess, a reward for making the grand final?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's more broadly, we look to reward those teams that have performed really well in the previous year. And so you'll see there, the Magpies runners-up, big club, big support base. They generate a big audience, and so when they play well, they deserve a big slice of the Friday night action.
In comparison, the Premier's West Coast only have 3 Friday night games. Why is that?
It's a good example, Nat, of different clubs have differing priorities. And so the Eagles, with their travel load, are really conscious about the number of 6-day breaks, and particularly when they play outside of Western Australia, they like to get home the night of a game. And so that doesn't allow them to have too many Friday nights. They're quite comfortable with that. In this case, they only play 3 games where they can't get home the night of the game, and so that's a big focus area for them.
When I was looking through the fixture and looking at the Thursday and the Friday night games, they do feature higher ranked clubs from 2018. Was that a conscious decision, I guess, to make sure these games were blockbusters and, I guess, boost the TV ratings?
It is. I mean, we had a few challenges last year in getting the right games into those Friday nights, and we owned that through the year, but also when we released the fixture, there's a few things that made it difficult for us. We've opened that up a lot with the 5-day breaks, which we can talk about soon.
Yep.
But if you go through each of the Thursday, Friday nights, we are expecting each of those to be really competitive games. In saying that, that's on paper. Who knows how the year's going to pan out, and so we'll all see.
Well, that was one of the things that we saw last year with Carlton and St Kilda and their scheduling on Friday nights. They've got no Friday night slots this season, or 2019. Take me through the process behind that.
Yeah, I mean, this process starts some time ago. We communicate with those clubs during the year about how their clubs are performing, and particularly performing in those big slots, and so that wouldn't be a big surprise for Carlton and St Kilda. They may not be rapt about it, but certainly they understand that their time will come. as they improve and they've got plans in place and they're rebuilding nicely, that as they start to compete for finals, their Friday night action will come.
There had been a push as well for one of the showdowns at Adelaide Oval to be a Thursday or a Friday night game. This hasn't happened in 2019. Was it considered?
Yeah, we always look for the sort of right slots for each of the big games outside of Victoria, so the derbies and the derbies and the showdowns. Yeah. It's a big game in South Australia, the showdown, and we think the Saturday slot works quite well. We'll look at it each year, but at the moment we've settled on that slot for 2019.
So you're not ruling it out in the future?
No, we don't rule anything out. We're always open-minded as to how we continue to improve the fixture.
All right, time to move on to 5- and 6-day breaks, and we know each club's strength and conditioning staff and football departments will be looking closely at these. So there are, in fact, 2 clubs with a 4-day break next year, Richmond and Melbourne, heading into their Anzac Eve clash. And I guess it's fair because they both have a short break in this case. They
do, and this game's turning into a really big game. It's the crowds now are nearing the crowds we're getting on Anzac Day itself. The night means that it can really become a fantastic entertainment product, and these teams are committed to this event.
Yep.
And so that with that comes in some years some shorter breaks. This is the start of the next round, and at least they've got the same break into that game, and so it's equitable for the 2 teams. It's going to be a fantastic game.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Looking at the 5-day breaks now, and we haven't had them before outside of marquee games like Anzac Day in the past. We will go into more depth on that in just a moment, but there are 6 clubs in this boat, and I'd like to actually touch on a real example just so we can decipher how, I guess, you work out the parameters behind this scheduling. But just to quickly look at 6-day breaks before we do that, and the Pies and Bombers at the top of this list, they are the 2 clubs that have the most marquee games, I guess. Is that a trade-off for them?
It's one of the factors, and so when you've got an Anzac Day on a Thursday, for example, you automatically create a shorter break with those games, and so that's one reason. But also when you're playing quite a few Thursday and Friday nights, to get those turned around, you're going to play a number of 6-day breaks. Clubs generally understand that. It's about then the spacing of those 6 days and trying to make sure that they're not travelling too much around the shorter breaks.
Okay, so back onto the 5-day breaks, and let's take a look at a couple of real examples when it comes to that. We are going to use Sydney and Brisbane. So we've tracked the Swans here through rounds 3 to 5. Take me through how you fixture around a 5-day break here.
Yes, and we've got a Thursday in each of the first 5 rounds. We haven't been able to do that historically because we couldn't have 5-day breaks for clubs. And so this on the screen is a really good example where we've been able to get the Sydney Swans up onto Thursday night, which wouldn't have otherwise been achievable. So they play Carlton in round 3 on a Saturday during the day, so they can get home that night. Then they've got a 5-day turnaround into the Thursday to be able to play Melbourne at the SCG. Melbourne are off a 6-day break, which is the other parameter that makes that available. Then they get a longer break out of that game. It needs to be 7 or plus days, and so you can see they go from a Thursday to a Saturday in this case. Okay,
and for the Lions, they have a short break from round 4 into their Easter Thursday clash, but then have a 9-day break following that.
That's right, Nate. This is a game that we're looking forward to. The Lions owned this slot for quite a number of years, and it's fantastic to see them back in the Easter Thursday slot. It's only been made possible because of the 5-day break. In this instance, you see that they play Essendon on a Saturday at the MCG. Then they play the Thursday night off a 5-day break. Collingwood happened to be off a 6-day break in this case, which allows it to occur. Then on the back of that, the Brisbane Lions go from a Thursday to a Saturday, so they've got the longer break on the way out. So it's a great example of the operation of the 5-day break, and it's a game that we're really looking forward to. Once again, the weighted rule has been used to construct the fixture. Are you able just to take us through that process again, Trav? Yeah, broadly because in the construct of the fixture, not every team plays each other twice, then we need a rule or a mechanism in order to manage equity, and this is a rule that's been in place for a few years now. It's been quite successful. If you look at it there, you've got 3 groups of 6, top, middle and bottom 6. And the general rule is for the top 6, as an example, they will play 2 to 3 teams in their same grouping, 1 to 2 teams in the next 6, and then 1 team in the bottom 6. And that's the way it works all the way through. OK, let's take a look at who plays each other twice, and we will start with the top 6 tier. And the top 4 have 3 double matchups against other top 6 opponents, while the Hawks and Giants only have 2. Was sorting this tier pretty straightforward? It is on paper,
yeah,
because you use last year's ladder, and so it's fairly easy to work out. The trick is really how do what's the expectations around teams, and everyone has their view of who's sort of emerging and who they think is going to fall away, and that's all part of the excitement of it. But if you look at West Coast, Collingwood, Richmond, Melbourne, those games are really strong. You've got the matchups of the big teams who performed really well in 2018, playing each other twice, and that's the best example of the operation of the weighted rule.
Moving on to the middle six now, and the two South Australian clubs look to have done quite well here. They only play one top six opponent twice and have two double matchups against bottom six sides.
That's right. I mean, part of this is you see for Port Adelaide and Adelaide, they've got the showdown in there as the middle six. It just happens to be they finish in the same bracket this year. That doesn't always work that way. But within that, Port Adelaide have got North Melbourne. North Melbourne have had a busy trade period, and that'll be a really interesting game for them. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how they go in 2019. Onto the bottom six tier, and we see Freo and the Lions only get two double matchups against teams in their tier, while the others all get three. Did you identify the Dockers and Brisbane as the teams that will be the big improvers in 2019?
Not necessarily. I mean, there is some expectation around both of those teams, and both have had a busy trade period, and so it's not as specific as that.
Okay.
But generally, there's a flavour there that you do play more of the bottom teams than those are higher up the ladder, and you can see that trend through the weighted rule.
Now, we all love a blockbuster, so let's take a look at some of the most anticipated clashes of 2019 and when they take place. The Lions are back hosting, as we mentioned, an Easter Thursday game at the Gabba, and of course they will come face to face with former skipper Dane Beams in round 5. Jesse Hogan will play against the Demons at the MCG for the first time in round 14. Buddy Franklin is on track to play his 300th game against the Pies on a Friday night in round 10 at the SCG to kick off Sir Doug Nicholls' round. And while the Eagles will unfurl their premiership flag in round 2, that also happens to be skipper Shannon Hearn's 250th. Now, interestingly though, Trav, New Hawks recruit Chad Wingard will meet the Power for the first time in Tassie. I would have thought maybe a parochial Port crowd at Adelaide Oval would have given this clash a little extra spice. Why Launceston?
Sounds like you're being cruel there, man. I don't know if anyone deserves that first up. I actually think that Chad plays his first game in Adelaide. Happens to be against the Crows, so he'll get to see the South Australian crowd really early on, but not the Port Adelaide crowd. I think one of the outputs of a really busy trade period is you see the long list of players who are playing against their old team, and everyone loves to watch that.
Okay, you can't accommodate everything. Your team have done a power of work, Trav, so well done. You can't please everyone, so I think you've done a phenomenal job on yet again producing another fantastic AFL fixture. It is time, though, for you to face the media who are waiting for you here at Marvel Stadium, so thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Nat. Thank you for having me.
All right, stay with us, everyone, because we are going to cross live to that press conference with Travis, who will answer more questions on the 2019 Toyota AFL Premiership season fixture. The countdown, of course, to round 1 begins now, and it certainly promises to be yet another fantastic season full of tantalising encounters.
Target there in Lenson. Look at that man take a big grab. Charlie Kerr is barreled by Stephen May, who lets him know all about it as well. Wingard in front. Strong mark, and look, he's into the next phase already.
Play on advantage. Oh! Beams with courage. Off to palm down. That is as good as it gets.
Hogan, he's got pressure on the outside. He goes himself.
Through the middle of the pack, he's having some sort of day. Lockie Neal off the outside of the boot. Lockie Neal, something special.
Shield. Little shake and bake.
Shield is on the flyby. Yo got ready to receive, and now he gets ready to fire. Oh, Walters! Goes it up for Ryder. Let him entertain you.
Outstanding smother.